Welcome everyone to Dance House Dance Podcast. I'm your host Will Morales, and for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about all things house music, everything that we love about house music. And today, my guest is DJ Mike Dominico. I've been trying to get this young man for the last probably 6 months or so, maybe four, give or take. Mike, how are you, brother? How's it
I'm
going?
doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, bro. Thank you for having me on the show.
No, it's my pleasure. So, guys, I remember seeing Mike a few years ago at Central Park Dance Skaters, and we just loved the way he played. You got a good following, Mike. I didn't know, but you have always a good crowd when you come around. So, anyway, Michael, first of all, how are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into DJing? What was that journey like?
Uh, Honestly, man, I don't remember the specific thing that got me into DJing. I started when I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember what it was that actually started me with it. Like I had other than I had a love of music. I had no equipment. My parents had a stereo system with a turntable,
Right.
and they had a cassette tape recorder with pitch control.
Right.
Like the early days, I remember having like 10 records, and I would record something on a cassette, and that would allow me to mix it with what the record was, what I had
Oh,
on the
wow.
turntable. Yeah, it was real guerrilla style, as I like to call it, making use with what you got. And it just kind of grew from there. I'm really not sure where it started, other than seeing some DJs at like my grammar school dances and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that might have given me the curiosity about it.
Yeah. Any early influences though with any DJs that you followed when you were young and you said, "Hey man, I love the way they play," or "This is something I would like to do"? Because you said it just popped up in your mind that you wanted a
Yeah.
DJ. But any influences that you had?
Well, let me start with this. A mutual friend of ours, Sal Rentis,
Oh
you know,
yeah, I know Sal. Yeah.
Sal was one of those DJs I saw as a kid. He's a few years older than me and went to the
Oh,
same grade school that I went to.
okay.
So he was DJing the dances. So that might have been what he might have been one of the people that sparked it for me. He definitely helped steer me in the right direction as the years went on. But other than that, the guys that were on the radio at the time, like Jellybean Benitez,
Yeah.
Jose the Animal Diaz,
All right.
like a bunch of the guys that were just doing it on the radio.
Did you early on, did you had what was the music that you listened to early on? Was it house, R&B, or a mixture of everything?
The music that I listened to for me, well, like, because coming up, my parents were both in show business. They were both performers. So, I heard a little bit of the stuff that they were playing,
Right.
got a little exposure to the Carpenters and the
Yeah.
early groups. So I have an appreciation for them that I think other people my age might not, but
Right.
I grew up hearing it, so it seeped into my subconscious. But like disco and stuff, that like whatever was coming on the radio, I remember hearing "Got to Be Real," Cheryl Lynn,
Oh yeah.
out and buying the 45. This was before I started actually DJing, so I was buying music before that.
Oh,
And
okay. So do you remember your first gig? How was that? Well, before you do that, um, you heard Cheryl Lynn, and I'm pretty sure you heard like about 80 different versions of the song. They made it into a rap song. They did this song, that. I mean, that beat alone,
yeah,
right, Mike, was pretty much everywhere back in the
yeah,
90s, 80s. Yeah, right. I would say 80s, right? Early 90s, maybe,
yeah,
give or
yeah,
take.
yeah. Early 80s it was.
Yeah.
I can't remember the specific. I think it was probably like 79, 80.
Yeah.
I remember I was in eighth grade, and that was like 80, 81.
Okay. So you're talking about years later, and
Yeah,
that beat is still iconic.
yeah, yeah.
So, once you got into DJing, do you remember like your first gig?
I remember my first gig canceling. That was like
Ooh.
devastating. I was supposed to do like one of the school dances that I had seen Sal do over the years. Like
Right.
this was like maybe 1 or 2 years. No, this was actually the year first year high school. So my old grade school, I was in talks with them to come back and DJ their one of their dances. And for some reason that fell through. And that was a punch in the face. But
Yeah.
but say la vie, man. That's what life is. I don't remember what my first gig actually was because it started out like house parties and
Yeah.
parties that I would have at my place. My mom would go away on the weekends, so my place became the place to hang out. So often, the DJ gear was there already, so it would
Yeah.
would just kind of turn into a party.
Right.
Those were the earliest things, and then I started doing like some gigs here and there at like bars for friends and family, and it just kind of spun into more than that.
Right.
It just kind of turned into it.
How did you end up in Central Park? How did that happen?
I was doing the skate sessions at Roxy. Uh,
Ah,
not the original ones, but when Roxy came back to it towards the end of Roxy in
yeah.
the 90s, I guess it was late 90s, mid 90s. I played, I was doing I think it was Wednesdays. I was doing the Wednesdays there with another DJ friend of mine. Um,
Okay.
and the person that was in charge of the DJs for the CPDSA heard us and came and had us come out and do it. And it was actually a friend of mine and a third DJ that we knew. The three of us came out and did them uh,
Right.
as a group. And every time we played, there would be one of us that didn't have a great time and be, oh, come on, let's just do it again. And
Right.
then it reached a point where there was a day where all three of us didn't have a good time and we just stopped doing it. And then like a year or two later, I said, you know what, I'm going to jump back into this. So that's when I started doing it solo.
Right. So you've been DJing at Central Park solo how many years now?
20.
Has it been that long? Wow. Because
mean,
I
it's,
started skating there in 2004.
yeah,
That's when I started. And I've heard about it in the early 90s.
yeah,
I didn't really start skating until, yeah, 2004, August of 2004, because I remember it vividly.
yeah.
So you've been there for 20 years. Has it been consistent 20 or on and off for 20?
Pretty much consistent. Like, I may not have been there solo for that time. Like, it
Right.
might be 20, 21 in total. And maybe after the first few years, that's when I started doing the solo. It was pretty consistent there. I think there was a year or two where I didn't play for whatever reason. Maybe I
Yeah.
got rained out
Yeah.
but for the most part, it was pretty consistent.
Okay. So, Mike, when you play in a gig, how important or is the crowd influential in what you play? So if you're playing something, whatever, maybe some R&B hits and then house, but the crowd is moving more to the house side of your mixing, do
Yeah.
you start staying more in house music, or again, does the crowd play a impact on you, or
Yeah.
you have your set and this is
No.
what I'm going to play? Go ahead.
No, I never have my set. Like
Okay.
I have a lot of DJ friends that do prep and all of that, and everybody has their own methods, their own style.
Right.
Um, I basically pack my toolbox with the tools I think I might need
Right.
and figure out how to use them when I get there, which is great when it works and very frustrating when it doesn't.
Right.
Like that's what the guys that plan their sets know what they're going to do, and you know what I mean. And there's something about that that's very securing.
Right.
The way that I do it, like as I said, when it works, when things are grooving, people are moving, and my selection is right. It's awesome. But then there's times where like I can't find the path. You know what I mean?
Uh,
And you just keep dropping breadcrumbs and hope that you find them. You know what I'm saying? And then once I find the path, I'm like, okay. And then I try to stay on it.
right. Right. Because I always wondered, with the DJs, if the crowd plays a big influence. Because I'm pretty sure you've seen this, Mike, where the DJs, they're going to play whatever they're going to play, whether
Yeah.
the crowd moves or not. And
Yeah.
there's some DJs that'll pivot because they say, well, oh, I played this song. They got it. They liked it. Let me stay on course with this
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
music. Um, so when you started playing gigs, right? Uh, how were you booked? Was it through Facebook or face-to-face meetings? How did
Uh, Word of mouth mostly.
Oh
And
wow.
that's
So
really
that's
big. I
huge.
mean,
That's
when I
great
started playing,
advertisement.
when I started playing, there was no Facebook, there was no internet, there wasn't any of
Okay.
that shit. I'm older than I look. I've been doing this for too long.
Okay.
Um, uh, yeah, so basically, um, I kind of got to know other DJs and people that knew people, and they would just they would recommend me for things. Oh, you need a
Okay.
DJ? I know this kid, he's great, blah blah blah. Try him out.
Yeah.
And it just, it's like a stepping stone. It's like you just keep, it's like credit. It's like when you don't have any, you can't get it. But once you have it, you can get more.
You get
So
more, yeah.
when you don't have gigs, you can't get gigs. But once you start getting them, then they start coming your way. I mean,
Okay.
it's exposure is all is what it is. I mean, people need to be able to find you to get to know you.
Well, the word of mouth, that's like the best advertisement ever.
Yeah.
Because people, like you said, if somebody hears you and they like it, they go, "Yeah, I know this guy. That's great. He plays this and that." So when you play, again, the sets that you do play, and you have other DJs watching you, does is there any competition in your mind, or you just, hey, wow,
Uh,
this guy's coming to watch me play? That's kind of cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so talk more about that because
Not
I always
not
wondered about that. When I see other
yeah.
DJs at other people's gigs.
Well, there's a lot of rivalry in the DJ game, and
Right.
really shouldn't be. I mean, I think a lot of it is jealousy. A lot
Mhm.
of it, people jealous that you're doing gigs that they wish they were doing, and
Yeah.
but you got to find your way to them, and if your skill isn't getting you there, you got to work on it, and you got to figure out what's not getting you there. Are you paying attention to the crowd, or
Right.
are you just playing what you want to play? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a job. We're there to do a job. We're not there just to play whatever it is we want to play, unless that's what the job is, which sometimes it is. Sometimes, oh, we just want a cool vibe. Like I've done a lot of lounge restaurant work,
Yeah.
and that is just to create the right atmosphere. So that's pretty much left up to me. You know,
Okay.
there's still guidelines like that I have to follow, not necessarily dictated to me, but you see a room and you go, okay, this track is going to be too energetic for a lounge, but this
Right.
one is going to be too sleepy, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so as you get more experience, you start to get a feel for it, and you start to gauge how people will react and how the energy will feel with certain songs.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, and because you're picking up experience. I love that. We're talking with DJ Mike Dominico. So, Mike, if you have when a new DJ is looking to get into house music, or they want to be a DJ, any recommendations you would you know uh tell that young person, whether it's a man or a woman, especially because, like you said, it's very competitive.
Yeah,
There's DJ, people do gigs for free just to get noticed, and then
yeah,
after
yeah.
that, so any words of wisdom?
Well, it's the industry is very different now than it was. And there's different kinds of DJing, which there's been club, there's been mobile. Now you have festival
Yeah.
and all of those things. That's a different animal. The touring DJ versus the residency DJ, like it's a different animal.
Hmm.
I've always been, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have been able to make a living at this most of my life, and,
Wow.
and continue to. I mean, a lot of people don't, well, some people don't know this about me. They see me doing the house parties and the skate things, but I make a living playing top 40 and whatever I need to. Like I
Okay.
play 4 nights a week. I have 4 different residencies.
Oh
And
wow.
a lot of people think there's years that people don't see me, and then I'll show up at a party. They'll be like, "Dude, what happened? You quit DJing?" I'm like, "No, I'm making money."
Yeah, good for you.
Like
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I play more now than I have when I was doing the house things, you know. But to give the advice, a new DJ needs to figure out what it is they want, what kind of DJ they want to be.
Yeah.
Then that'll dictate how to get there.
Fair
As
enough.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak on doing the festival things and all of that because it's not really my niche. But when it comes to doing the residencies and just doing it as a 9 to 5, so to speak, this is my 9 to 5. It's just 10 to 4 instead, or whatever. These days it's a little earlier. It's like 7 to 2 or 8 to 2
Right.
or whatever. But if you're going to go that route, you first have to learn how to hold that job down.
Right.
Oh, it's not about just going in and playing what you think is cool.
Right.
You got to go in and play what they think is cool and what
Yeah.
they want to hear, regardless of how you feel about it.
Right. So
Now,
that's great advice. Yeah. No.
yeah,
So, go ahead, Mike. Yeah. Please
yeah.
continue.
I mean, I was just going to say, like, I don't necessarily love everything that I have to play, but I'll hunt down remixes and things that make it more palatable for me, uh, and so that they'll recognize a song that they'll recognize, but a remix that I can stomach better. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? So I don't mind playing it, and they're excited to hear it. And it's not the original version, which I don't necessarily like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and
And,
thankfully, God,
no, go ahead, Mike. No,
I was
please
just gonna
continue.
say,
Sorry.
thankfully these days, the remix thing is expected. It's because it's such a prominent part of music these days, especially dance music, where there was a time where it wasn't. They wanted to hear the version they knew from the radio.
Yeah.
And you know, that gets a little difficult when you're dancing into really poppy top 40 stuff when you're not a really poppy top 40 guy. Like I don't mind a lot of top 40. A lot of top 40 stuff is good music. And
Yeah.
I remember I once went to a Giant Step party and they said people ask us what kind of music we play. We play good music.
Right.
I was like,
Good answer.
there's good music in practically every genre. And then there's shit in practically every genre.
Yeah.
So you know, I don't necessarily have to love it, but I can recognize a lot of it is good. And therefore I don't mind playing it. What's disheartening is when bad music becomes popular and you either just have to tough it out until it disappears, or these days you could find a decent remix of everything pretty much.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that. I've noticed that like some of the DJs they'll play, and I hear different, the original version of a song, and
Yeah,
then I hear now the new remix, and I'm like, wow, I like it better than the original.
yeah,
They might add a little bit more bass or maybe a little bit
yeah,
piano, whatever it is.
yeah,
I do like it. Well, first of all, Mike, I want to thank you so much for being on Dance House Dance Podcast. I really
yeah, man.
appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other gigs you got coming up or anything you want to promote? Please
I
feel
mean,
free.
my usual. I didn't used to promote my regular gigs because I didn't want the house head showing up or the classic lover showing up, expecting one thing and getting another.
Right, fair
And
enough.
then and a lot of people now that are knowing me at my 9 to 5 gigs are asking me, oh, where are you going to be? Blah blah blah. So I've started not promoting it, but I've started listing it on my Facebook page. I mentioned it on Instagram, on my
Yeah.
website. Like, it's got the 4 days where they are, the hours, and I list the type of music played there. So if
Okay.
you're coming, you know what to expect, more or less. Um, so they're bar, lounge, club, restaurant type things,
Yeah.
which often evolve as the night goes. They'll start as a restaurant and turn into a bar, end up as a club, depending on the night. Um, but those are all available on my website. You can see, which is djmikedominico.com.
Okay.
And if you go to my Facebook page, it's a little harder to find on my Instagram. I'm still figuring out a way of listing them. Like, well, on Facebook, you could put them as your cover picture. So
Right.
that's, I'm looking for a way that works on Instagram uh, in a similar way. But if you go to my Facebook page, which is just Mike Dominico, or my website, djmikedominico.com, you'll find listings for those gigs.
Yeah, I'll definitely put it on the show notes. Well, anyway, first of all, Mike, thank you so much for being on Dance House Dance Podcast again. Brother, I really, really appreciate it. And
You're
thank you
welcome.
so much. A DJ model that you might have, or, something to take us out, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Uh,
I'm putting you on the spot, Mike.
well, let me leave us with advice for fellow DJs, but not fellow DJs, they'll get this, but new DJs and stuff. I always say there's no right or wrong when you're creating, mixing, producing, whatever. It either
Yeah.
works or it doesn't work. And if it works, it's right. Like, so don't slave over it. Oh, this isn't right, blah blah blah. Like, get it to a point that it works, and then you're done with it. That goes with production, that goes with DJing.
Mm.
There's a lot of times where I'll be mixing and I'll do a mix that kind of works, and I'll go, all right. And then the next time I'll try it again, but tweak it just right. Okay, now that works. Like I entertain myself by experimenting and by trying new things, and it ends up being a more exciting experience for the people listening to me.
Right.
But at the same time, it's me trying to work it out also. So
Yeah. All right. No,
no right or
that's
wrong.
good. Yeah, that's good advice. Well, anyway, again, Mike, first of all, again, thank you so much for being on
You're welcome, brother.
Dance House
Anytime.
Dance. I really appreciate it. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.